Hi, everybody. Wisdom seekers and friends. I'm Dr. Sherry Shoemaker, and I am here to welcome you to From Grief to Grace. I am an intuitive grief counselor, and I'm also a PhD in nursing research. I keep wanting to say research, nursing science, but it's really nursing research, which has to do with science. But anyway, be that as it may, I went to the University of San Diego, which I was very excited about. It's a fabulous university. I have a master's in traditional Oriental medicine, and I was practicing as a licensed acupuncturist for 20 years, in addition to my nursing, because I'm also a registered nurse. So, but the reason that I went into coaching as a intuitive grief coach was because last year I lost my daughter. My daughter died unexpectedly, and she just went to sleep and did not wake up. It was a very difficult time. And what I found over the year was she was my catalyst to help other people get through their loss. Because what I found is that with my background and my training and the practices that I do and the knowledge that I have, I was able to go through the grieving process in a short amount of time, relatively speaking, and with grace, and know that I have a purpose, know that I can live a wonderful life. So I see the potential in people, and I saw the potential in me, but I see the potential in people in front of me, and can turn that potential into a way of living fully. It's funny, when I had my acupuncture practice, people would come in and they'd want to tell you what they thought you wanted to hear. So I learned to observe. I learned to ask questions. I learned to listen to my intuition as they were talking to me. And so they would tell me what they thought I wanted to hear, and they would usually tell me something about what their MD had told them. So I'd nod and I go, okay. And then I'd feel their pulse, and I would look and see how they walked, see what they were saying, see how they said it, and treat them. And I inevitably would get a phone call the next day saying, oh my gosh, I didn't even tell you that I had back pain. I came in for my knee pain, but my back feels fabulous. And the doctor told me he couldn't do anything about that. So I didn't mention it. So I do have a skill that I've honed over many years of being able to look past just what I see in front of me to more than I see in front of me. I've spent 40 years in the service of people in pain and disease. I have seen and been participant in rescue events that ended in death. I forget that most people have never even seen a dead body. They've seen things on TV or YouTube, but it's not the same. I was taking care of a patient in the ICU one time, And, in the ICU, everything's very structured and you're really busy. You really are busy as a nurse. You have more than one patient. You are constantly working with machines and drips and things. And sometimes you can get caught up in that and not really see the person. Well, this one time, now this was about 30 years ago, 35 years ago, there was a patient in the ICU who had decided not to have a code, not to do anything to prolong her life, which nowadays, if you are not going to have extenuating care, then you are put into a lower level of care. You're not in the ICU anymore. But at that time, they left her in the ICU because she was so close to death and decided not to move her. And she didn't have any friends or relatives. She had outlived everybody she knew. So I was allowed and had the privilege of sitting with her and holding her hand as she passed over, as she moved on, as she transformed, as she died. And it was one of the most profound experiences and the kindest and the most loving that I had ever experienced. It was just amazing. But when it's somebody that that you have had a long-term relationship with, it's different. It's going to be different. Because after that lady died, I could say a prayer. I had warm, loving feelings towards her and her spirit, but I did not feel that profound loss that you feel when it's somebody that you've lived with, somebody that you've had interaction with over many, many years, experiences that you've shared, like with my daughter, or your husband, or your wife, or your cousin, or your parents. It's just not the same. So I've been involved with families from different cultures, different levels of acceptance, and different reactions. I am looking down to the side because I am looking at my notes to stay on track. I had experiences with parents who had lost their child to a gunshot wound because they were jumping on a bed and there was a gun hidden in the mattress that was loaded. And when the child jumped, the gun went off. And then I've been involved with standing at the bedside with the family as the patient has now passed over or died, and they start arguing about who gets the money. So there's many ways of dealing with grief and with loss, and it depends upon the individual. Looking back, I see how many times I was able to interact and soothe people with my expertise and knowledge. Now I know that communication is much better. There are more processes for dealing with grief, helping people deal with grief. The hospitals have grief counselors, the hospitals have hospice, they have palliative care, and they have people who interact with the family as they go through the process of losing their loved one. I know also that there's always someone who wants to tell you how you should grieve. And even some of these counselors and people, in a very well-meaning way, want to tell you, oh, well, you're in this stage of grief, so you need to be feeling this way. You need to do these activities. You need to do this. You need to do that. You should go there. You should go here. But they're not hearing what you're saying or where you are. Because what are your questions? Your questions are, in general, what I have heard is, I don't want to move on. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to move on. Is it even possible? And what's the purpose? What's my purpose? Like somebody told me, who am I? I was so connected with this person that I don't even know who I am anymore. So where do I start? And is it too soon? Am I dishonoring my memory of this person by wanting to move forward? Is it too soon? What will everybody think? What will I think of myself? These are questions that many people have. And there are answers, and there are good answers, and there are positive ways of moving forward. And that is what I found, and that is what moved me to start doing this coaching. Once upon a time, I was in an airport, and I was sitting at Cinnabon, and this gentleman came up. It was very crowded, and he asked me if he could share the table. I said, sure. We started talking, just a little chit chat. Where are you going? Blah, blah, blah. And somehow we got on this conversation. He told me he was an attorney. I told him I was a nurse. And he goes, you know, my wife died 6 months ago. And the last 2 years, I was her sole caretaker. I was the person who did everything for her. And I have never felt that close to a human being before. Wow, that's really wonderful. He goes, but my friends tell me that I need to get out, that I needed to date, that I needed to meet people, that I couldn't just sit around the house. And so I went on a date. They fixed me up with somebody and I went on a date. Well, by the end of the evening, even though she was a nice woman, I felt like she was looking for a meal ticket. I think she just wanted somebody to support her. And he goes, I'm not ready for that. I don't want that. And I said to him, well, you know, but most people don't know. I just assume they know. I assumed he knew. There are 5 stages of grief. And we all have to go through these stages to get to the last stage, which is acceptance. And the average time is a year. So you have these 5 stages, and you are not through the entire process. So give yourself some grace. Let your friends know you're not emotionally inept. You're not holding on to depression. You are simply processing what you need to do to be the best you can be for yourself at this point. He was like, oh, thank you. Thank you. I really thought there was something wrong with me. I go, no, you're okay. But you need to let your friends know that you're okay. It's okay. It's important to communicate with them. You're just not there yet. And perhaps, even though he was a lawyer, he didn't have the words to tell them. But he was just so relieved that he was okay and that he would be moving forward and he was not stuck. In this class, I'm hoping, I expect, and my intent is that you will feel lighter, that you will be able to go through your day with a lightness and maybe even precipitating a joy. So we're going to do a couple things in this class at the very end, which are exercises. One is a breathing exercise. The other is a meditative visualization exercise. And then we have a Qigong exercise, which I think is really fun. And they're interactive. So stick around and we'll get to do some fun things. First, understand that grief is different for everyone. There are many layers, and the journey is not linear. So you have your 5 stages of grief. Dr. Kubler-Ross wrote a book in 1969 called On Death and Dying. And in that book, she defined the 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now that sounds really great. They're all in 1, 2, 3, numerical order, right? Well, that's what we glommed onto from the book. We meaning society, we meaning the healthcare system. We kind of glommed onto that. But that's not the reality of things. The reality is we go from 1 to 3 to 4 to 2 to 1, and it's a process. But every time you bounce from one to the other, to the other, to the other, during that process, where you are changes. It's not the same as the first time you went through it. So remember that you all grieve differently. When I went back to work, I went back to work 5 days after my daughter died. And I wanted to tell everybody that my daughter died. And that was part of me. And part of me was going, no, this is professional, this is corporate, because I was in an administrative role at the time. And so, you don't get personal, right? So I got on a phone call with a person I have a monthly meeting with. And I said to her, I just want you to know that if I don't seem like I'm absorbing what you're telling me, that I am asking you to repeat the same thing several times, that I have like a brain fog. My daughter died last week. And when she went, oh my gosh, I'm really sorry. My sister died when I was a teenager. This is what she's telling me. My sister died when I was a teenager, and my father would not let anybody touch her room for an entire year. She goes, don't let anyone tell you how to grieve. It's different for everyone. Now, logically, I knew that. But I needed someone's permission and reminder to be able to live it. And when she told me that, when I got off the phone call, I called my boss and I went, I can't be here. I don't know when I will be able to be here. If you need to take my vacation time, take my sick time, whatever, put me on leave. I don't care. I don't care. You decide, you do it, and I'll go with it because I can't be here. Fortunately, she was a very good boss and very nice and said, do what you have to do, take your time, and it's gonna work out. It's okay. Just do what you have to do. What I realized too was I did not need to stay busy with work, which is normally our go-to thing. That's our go-to because we're used to being the person who takes care of everything. Everybody was looking to me to be the strong one. I was the one that always could handle crises. I was the one that could always support everybody else through all their emotional crap. But this time, I was the one who needed to be supported. And if all I had was me, then I needed to support me so that I could grieve. It was very important. Have you ever said to yourself, am I ever going to feel happy? Am I really ever going to feel like life is worth living? Well, if you are asking those questions, you really want a solution. And coaching with me can help bring you that solution. During my coaching, I work with 3 principles: rediscovering your purpose. Why are you here? Who are you? And identifying where you are in the grief process. And where are you going to go with it? And how is it manifesting? What do you see around you? And how is it affecting your life? And after that's defined and identified, then we can move on to making other decisions. Because you know what? Confusion stops decisions and movement. So you really need to be clear. You have to have an amount of clarity with what you're doing in order to move forward. Each week, we take a different aspect of you and where you are, not where somebody said you should be, which you may hear during the week. Oh, well, why are you doing this? How's this going to work? They don't know you, blah, blah, blah. And along with hearing all that, when you're working with me, you will become more comfortable responding to that, to family, friends, and the rest of your environment. You will have more confidence, renewed confidence. And you'll learn how to set boundaries without guilt. You know, you don't want to let yourself down either. So we will talk about guilt and boundaries and what you expect of yourself and how you can give yourself grace and what that means. Kind of like the guy at the airport. During the second month, we'll talk about rekindling your passions. What did you like to do that you're not doing? How would you go about getting started again? What does it mean to you? Is there something else? Are there so many memories with that one thing that you were doing? Was it all bound up with the other person? And how would you unbind it, but put it in a way that is so beautiful and joyous that whenever you did it, you would smile? For myself, I had joined a wine club at a winery near us, and my daughter and I would go once a month at least. And we always had the best time. Well, after her death, I went back and I had a choice. And I sat there and I remembered and I looked at old pictures, all the fun stuff, all the memories, all the happiness that we had shared at that winery. And my choice was, do I want to remain a member? Do I want to keep going back? Or do I just want to drop it because it's too painful? What I decided was I wanted to go back. I wanted to have that happiness, have that joy when I arrived there and share it, because I knew I was still sharing it with her as well as with the other people that I would come with. So I still belong, and it still makes me smile, and I still get a warm feeling in my heart. So you don't have to give up anything you don't want to. You just need to understand and embrace a new thought about it. That's all. In the third month, we're connecting with the beauty and love of life. Life is exciting. We are continuing to show gratitude for everything that we have accomplished. Everything. Because it's really exciting. Life is exciting. I had colleagues at work whose significant other had died. And I don't know, I didn't know them so well as they, so that I knew what kind of a process they had gone through. But what I did know and what I did see, and the people around them saw, was they threw themselves into their work. Their work-life balance was zero. They just worked because everything else was too painful for them, and they never moved past that. Well, they didn't know how. They didn't have someone. They were afraid to. There was so much fear about what would it be like if they did move through it. Where would they be? Who would they be? How would they handle it? That's what a coach is for, to help you understand who you are. That's what I do. I help you understand who you are and where the joy is and where the gratitude is. Every day, I look outside and I go, oh my gosh, my life is so glorious. And just saying those words out loud to nobody anywhere, just looking at the trees around me, the buildings around me, the sun in the sky, even when it's foggy or cloudy or raining, it's still glorious. It makes a difference. It makes a big difference because it comes from my heart. This kind of information comes from the heart. So my focus is on the individual, but the whole person. And that's what I loved about learning Oriental medicine and practicing as an acupuncturist, because I always treated the whole person. We're a physical, mental, and emotional being. We're not just an arm, we're not just a leg, we're not just the heart, we're not just the brain. We are all. And as you touch one thing, you have to touch the other because it is connected. It's always connected. An example that one of my professors gave was when you put your hand in a stream and you feel the water and you see it going by, and maybe it's a little cold, maybe it's running smoothly, maybe there's a stick in it that causes a little jig-jag in the stream. And so you notice all these things. Then you go back the next day, you put your hand in the stream, and you know what? It's a different stream. Maybe somebody threw a rock in it. Maybe the sticks are all gone. Maybe the water, it rained that day and it caused some more turbulence, but it's different. So when I would treat patients, I would have an idea of where we were going, but I was always looking at that person that showed up. Because the person that showed up was the person who needed the treatment. not the person from last week. So there was no algorithm or, well, you came in today, so we're going to do these tests, we're going to take those drugs, we're going to do this way. It was all, you had to really pay attention. And like I said, I believe I said before, people don't always tell you what they want. They tell you what they think you need to hear. So there's an intuition, a deeper observation that needs to happen when you treat people, when you listen to people, when you coach people. And even if it's just reframing what they told you, it's still something that makes them think, a little click. Oh, did I say that? Did I mean to say that? You just never know. I had a patient one time who was very, she had a lot of pain. She was in her late 30s, early 40s. She had a 16-year-old daughter who drove her into the office. She was torqued to one side. She couldn't bring her head around. She had headaches. She couldn't hold her weight. She was leaning against the wall, trying to support herself. And so when we started the treatment, after she gave me her whole medical history and how she'd been to all this doctors and she'd taken medication and been to physical therapy and all this other stuff, chiropractors, naturopaths, a lot of different things, because this had been going on, getting progressively worse over a year. We started the treatment and she goes, "Oh my God, how did you know?" And I'm like, "Know what? About this loss I had 10 years ago. I never told anybody. Nobody knows. How did you know?" And I didn't know. I didn't know consciously, but I did know. And that's how I treated her. And once that was released and we were able to actually bring it in the open, she was able to process what that meant to her and how it affected her. She made an amazing recovery. Within 2 months, she was standing up, she was walking, she was straight, she was driving a car, she was going to the gym, and she even wanted to start dating. You cannot hold on to loss as it is, because it doesn't honor the person that you lost, and it doesn't honor you. My belief system says that that person, that spirit, that soul in a body is in a blissful state. So why would they want you to be less? You'll have to answer that question, because I don't believe they would want you to be less. They know in their spirit state that you have something to accomplish and that it's important for you to live a full, happy, joyous life so that you can accomplish what you need to do. So, what is grief? Jamie Anderson, who's an author, wrote, "Grief," I have to look for I want to say it right. So grief is a place. It's just love. Grief is love with no place to go. That's the quote. Grief is a place. I did it again. Grief is love with no place to go. So let's find a place. Grief is not a destination. Let's move forward. Let's continue to expand as a human being. Let's bring joy and love into our lives so that we can help bring joy and love into others' lives. And that's the exciting part of what and who we are and how my coaching can help you move forward. So now let's do the exercises. The first one, of course, is breathing, because you know what? Breathing is very integral to living. We need to be able to breathe and breathe it properly so that we get the most oxygenation throughout our body. Now, there are lots of different types of breathing exercises, and you can look at them online, do whatever you want. But right now, I want you to know that this breathing exercise is something that I have done for a long time, and I find it very effective for me. And so I'm sharing it with you. What we're going to do is we're going to breathe in for 4 counts. We're going to hold it for 4 counts. We're going to exhale for 4 counts and then hold that for 4 counts. And then you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and you do that 4 to 5 times every day. And the biggest thing is you sit up straight, you put your feet on the floor, and you breathe from your abdomen. So I'm going to scoot back and go, okay, I will just show you with my hands, but it's from here, not from here. We don't want the shoulders going up and down. If you start getting dizzy, then you have to stop and just breathe normally, because you're just breathing from the upper part of your lung, okay? We want to get deep into all the bases, okay? So you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and continue on. So as you do that, like I said, at least every day for 4 to 5 cycles every day. The next is a visualization. And meditation. So you find a quiet spot. You get comfortable. You can sit or lay down, doesn't matter. Close your eyes. Relax your jaw. Take a deep breath and exhale slowly. Feel your muscles relax. Breathe normally while you say to yourself, may the arms of the universe blanket me in expanding love to the depths of my being. Repeat that a couple times. May the arms of the universe blanket me in expanding love to the depths of my being. Then just feel the words as you repeat that thought in your mind. You can set a timer for 5 minutes to 10 minutes so that you have this thought in your mind and you can feel it. You feel this thought. Then notice, what is the temperature around you? Is it cold? Is it warm? Are you shivering? Are you calm? Are you hot? What color is the blanket? What's the blanket made of? Is it a thick blanket? Is it skinny? Is it really thin, almost threadbare? Is it cotton? Is it silk? What kind of a blanket are you engulfed in? What size is the blanket? Does it cover you all over? Is it just cover your feet? Does it cover your front? Are you laying wrapped in it? Or is it just covering a small part of you? Where do you feel the love, the expansion? And what part of your body do you feel the most? Just visualize it. Keep visualizing it. Do this every day. Journal it. Write down the answers, the feelings that you had, what you saw, how you responded to it. Do this every day for 7 days. And then look back and see where you came from day 1 to day 7. If there were even minute changes, just notice. The last one is a Qigong practice, and I am going to share my screen. And we will get this up so I can share the screen. And start it. Hi, everyone. We're going to do a Qigong exercise called the horse. This is an exercise that loosens up all of your tension and muscles and your whole body. And it also moves your blood, moves your chi, and makes you feel good all the way around. So stand with your feet hip width apart. Take a deep breath. Oh, we're going to make a noise with this. Take a deep breath. One more time. We're going to do this 3 times. One more. How does that feel? Just remember, do it once a day or more. It's always good for you. And anytime you're starting to feel anxious or upset, this is a really good loosener. It just loosens you all up. So enjoy it, and I'll talk to you again. Interesting, huh? It's really effective. I've used it for a long time. It's very effective for many people. So I just want to let you know that if you would like to ask questions, if you want to get hold of me, if you want any more information, please contact me through my website, wherespirittakesme.com, and I will get back to you, book a call. The last thing I would like to do is read you a poem by Rumi, who is a 13th century Persian poet. I love this poem. It is a great reminder to me. I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance, the sacred dance of life. I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift others up. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that trap. Free my soul, that we might dance, and that our dancing might be infectious. Stay inspired, stay alive, stay in gratitude.